Sure.
So Abraham laid Isaac his son, the son he loved, on the altar where wood had been prepared, and he was prepared to cut his throat. This was not only a sifting and a testing, but a doorway opener that Satan has been unable to shut to this day. That door cannot be shut if we are willing to be cleansed. Are we? That door that Satan has been trying to shut in your life, in my life, by bringing in hassles and torments and sicknesses and all this other stuff trying to wear us down so that we won't hear God, won't listen, and won't obey him. That door can be shut to Satan and open to God. And it was because of what Abraham chose to do. And Isaac agreed. God was telling Abraham, you give me your son, and now I will give you my son for you and for the whole world. As the lamb to take away sin, disease, infirmity, death, poverty. This is reaffirmed again in Genesis 22:18. And in your descendants, all generations of the earth shall be blessed because you have obeyed my voice. The key to the cleansing of his descendants would show up in their willingness to obey whatever laws, judgments, ordinances God declared as necessary for the cleansing of the effects of the Nephilim DNA, and their influences will be neutralized. What do we see today? We see a grace revolution that wants to say, oh, the law is done away. We don't need to obey. We don't need to confess. It's done away. But that's not what God said here to Abraham. And in Genesis 24:60, get this. He says, you will possess the gate of your enemies. This blessing is so important for believers to understand. No watcher can land, interfere, restrict, abduct, or kill anyone who does not call them back and open a gateway for them. We have the power that the world wants. We have the power to call on all gates to be opened or all gates shut that are open right now. And without that, Jesus, would not have been authorized, or the Father even would not have been authorized to open that gateway to allow Jesus to be born of Mary. It couldn't have happened unless this doorway was opened, and it was. Now we're going to look into the marks of control from Satan. And we'll just have a time in this short message here to deal with a few of the aspects of each mark. Let's start with the mark of Cain. That's the first mark we'll talk about, the marks of control from Satan. The mark of Cain is an 8-pointed star with a crest in the center. It designated no longer able to rest on the Sabbath, but would have to worship on Sunday. You see, worshiping on Sunday is a punishment. It's not a blessing. Keeping the Sabbath day is a blessing. The mark of the Nephilim. What is that? Well, you and I, I'm sure, have some of those marks on us. I think I've got one that I can't wrap it up. I've got a mark here, a birthmark, that shows there is a vestige of the Nephilim. That's why we take communion. And we're thanking God that in communion it's disappearing, these things. Birthmarks, cancer, sexual obsession. These are marks of the Nephilim, of the giants. Now the mark of Nimrod. What was that? That was a return to Sunday worship and penis worship. I'm amused by the typing of this series that we have. Thank God we still have it. Instead of somatic fluid, it was semantic fluid. We had to change that to the right thing here. But this is all about sex, and that's what these giants are all about. And this is why we live in a sex-crazed society, preparing themselves to receive the giants' somatic fluid and to rejoice in these evil sexual waves. But here we see now, and one thing I know that I mentioned, but the most important thing that we have to get rid of the giant DA is not just communion, but it is the Passover service. What a powerful blessing is coming up here, I believe, on March the 30th this year. And we need to keep that Passover service to get rid of these things. So the mark of Nimrod was Sunday worship and penis worship. The mark of Egypt, what was that? That was slave mentality and reliance on things. Mark of Babylon, legalism, religiosity, got a lot of that today. Compromise, a lot of that as well. And Sunday worship. Virtually all of the people of the United States and Canada and the world are Sunday worshipers because of what happened with these giants. The mark of Rome, what is that? Legal enforcement of Sunday worship again. All about Sunday worship. And total intolerance to truth. Intolerance of truth. You can have all the ho-ho-hos of Santa Claus and Saturnalia, no problem. But do you know there are 9,000 demonic doctrines in the churches, Christian churches today? And people will say, if you're a Sabbath keeper, they say, oh, what? You must be a cult. You must be a cult. We have over 20 churches around this area that curse us as a cult because we're keeping all the 10 commandments, or at least endeavoring to do so by God's grace. What is the crime there? Why does that make you a cult? Obeying God makes you a cult. Pilate said, what is truth? He didn't know what truth was. And how many people today know what truth is? When you hear truth spoken out on some of these sites on the radio that are not the mainstream media, when you hear some of these things spoken, they don't say, oh, wonderful, it's truth. They say conspiracy theory. But you know, in 1967, when I first became a Christian, they did come out with the lie to counteract those who were trying to say, no, this is not true, that JFK was killed by Oswald, that his own driver turned around and shot him, which is the truth. They wouldn't believe this, and they said, oh, this is a conspiracy theory. The CIA coined that term. And how many people today are treating truth like conspiracy theories? Satan's mark, finally, was rebellion, living a lie, take, a paranoia to need to be worshipped. I have a man here on my iPad who is filming this today, who during the campaign and even before, for 8 years, finally he said, I just can't watch that man, the former president. He says, it's like the politician. It's true. They say, what makes a politician lie? It's just, when does he lie? It's when he opens his mouth. And this man just continually lied. Even recently, he's lied. We got tapes of him saying, oh, I didn't do this, never, never, never. And now they got the proof that he did seek to spy on the present president. He did it. We have the proof of it, and yet he lied about it. This is showing there's a fight between good and evil, between Satan and Jesus. And though the president is not perfect, far from it, he still is doing the job that Jesus wants him to do, to convict these people of Satan worship, which is wrong, certainly wrong. So lies, and more lies. The one party that lost have been trying for a year to blame the president of Russian collusion, when all along we found out now they are the ones that have colluded Russia. Then more than colluded, they took bribes. They bribed them. They got false information to try to spy on the president. It's just an absolute. It is the worst scandal in American history, and the mass media are just turning their heads another way. It's a sign of our times. But surprises are going to come very soon, even about God's sign, the Sabbath day. The understanding will come to some people about this tremendous truth, which is the Sabbath sign. Now, what is the sign? The sign of God is, if you love one another, you have my sign, but also if you have my Sabbath day. And we're going to be talking about that in the next, and hopefully the last part of this teaching in just a moment here. We'll go ahead and end this part right now.